So, final question about the profs and and Spires. What advice would you give to a tutor who wants to apply to either the profs or the Spires?
Ooh, I think it's my answer generally to how to be successful in life. I think humble and hungry, roughly. You need to be the right combination. I know that's a kind of Steve Jobs quote, but he's right in my experience of life. I like so many things. He that was kind of his mantra, right? You need to be hungry. You need to demonstrate energy, effort, drive, and professionalism kind of falls under that. But also kind of not think you know it all, right? Like a lot of tutors that we meet in the ether, a lot of independent private tutors, they have no yardstick to measure themselves by. So we as a significant tutoring company have huge amounts of, as I said, heuristic and hard data on what it is to be a great tutor. And actually some of them are genuinely shocked by when they think, and they may well be successful tutors in their own right, but then actually when they get a bit of insight into what the realms of feasibility are in tutoring, it's quite eye-opening for them. And I think to go through that process, anyone who thinks they know it all by definition knows nothing. I hold that to be true as well. I think you have to accept that you can always learn, and that the best way to learn is from other people, roughly. So particularly for the profs, the trick is to be able to teach university level subjects. The profs demand 90% of it is for BSc level and above, and so typically the qualification requirements are either a PhD or a professional qualification in your chosen subject. Not exclusively, they do some A-level work and some GCSE work. There's no one at the profs that I'm aware of. If there are, there it's a footnote in the profs overall kind of sales function. People below the age of about 16. So if you kind of are looking for A-level and GCSE work, the profs probably isn't the place for you at all. Equally, if you really want to challenge yourself, and when we do lots of IELTS, for instance, that is professional qualifications actually are a very big part of our business model. So I treat them slightly differently from traditional education. Kind of English GCSE and IELTS are not, they're not, they fall under the category of English, but they're in no way the same thing. They're a very different set of skills. And I think that's true across the distribution. But then, once you've got the right profile, getting invited to interview, they look for people that are prepared, that are professional, that listen, and that again, they look for that characteristic of, and it's the same. I was on the graduate recruitment board at JP Morgan. I've hired hundreds, if not thousands, of junior traders and salespeople. It's, people think they have to come there and show that they're the best. That is so far wrong. You actually never have to prove you're the best in the interview. You have to prove that the person can sit next to you and that they like you. And I think that's the thing they look out for the most when their interview process is, are you a nice guy? Would I feel comfortable putting you in front of a client, and would they like you? Or are you going to cause problems? So people that, think they have a lot to prove, or that they know it all, is both the wrong outcome. I think then, in terms of Spires, the criteria is certainly lower, because we take it's still an interview process. You still have to apply, you still have to be accepted onto the platform. We don't want to waste people's time. If we don't have lots of work in their subject, then there would be no point. But there, it's the difference there is it's all about online tutoring. So that marketplace, most people are on Spires. Not everyone, but most people are the sweet spot's probably A-level and first year undergraduate, but we have a lot of GCSE clients, and we have quite a few primary school students as well, actually, kind of particularly like 11 plus, 13 plus. And across all subjects. So that's got far more of a focus on school level stuff as a profile. And then in the interview, it's the same thing. They're looking for nice people, but the difference is they're looking for tech competent people. Online tutors and offline tutors are, there is crossover, but a lot of people sort of assume that if you're a great tutor, that you're a great online tutor. That is so far from the truth in my experience. I don't think if you're a bad tutor, you can be a good online tutor, but I think if you're an amazing offline tutor, you might be a crap online tutor, and we've seen that a lot. Being an online tutor, it has a learning curve associated with it that you've been through, that I've been through, in terms of, do you have the right hardware? You sit there now in a nice light room. You've got a high quality video camera. Typically we recommend people wear headphones to deal with audio cancellation properties. You're in a nice quiet space. You've got a good computer. I'm not hearing your fan humming. You've obviously discovered the world of online, digital pens in terms of styluses and iPad Pros and Microsoft Surfaces. You've also then gone out and looked at the world of online whiteboards. So you found bit paper, but I'm sure you've played with Scribbler and I don't know, Whiz IQ and all these other solutions that exist in the market. And even then, on top of that, you've had to train yourself to be able to operate a computer and a writing tablet and software and hardware all at the same time as teaching, right? So not only do you have to be a good teacher, you actually have to have kind of good motor skills. And we found that the sweet spot of very good online tutors, and it will sound ageist, it's not intended to be, it's kind of a fact in the data, their sweet spot tends to be kind of more, I mean, probably like 20 to 40, as opposed to like, as I said to you earlier, many of the best profs tutors are older, right? Kind of 50 plus. But we've had a lot of trouble even floating the idea with many, not all of them, but with most of them. They won't go near online. They're not confident with computers. They haven't had the same, we're the Game Boy generation, right? We grew up clicking buttons. For them, it was a much later life experience. And so the profile of an online tutor does tend to be a bit younger. And we found actually some of the very best online tutors, in fact, the two I'm thinking of, are professional gamers, which might sound funny, but they're not massively different skills in some sense. Being able to think quickly, react quickly. The difference is obviously the social skill that comes with teaching, but actually the mechanical skills of being a great online tutor line up roughly with people who are good gamers. They're used to binding hotkeys to, change windows and move around screens. And if you are tutoring online and you're operating of a computer, or the software or changing platforms is slowing down your delivery of education, then your product is suboptimal. If you can operate, and I would love to give you a demo, but I didn't bring my stuff with me another time, but if you can, and I'd love to see how you go about solving these problems, but roughly I can actually teach much quicker and show much more stuff using a computer than I could with a pen and paper. I can sit there alt tabbing, hotkeying, bit paper, as is fully hotkeyed, so undoing, redoing, copy pasting, chucking stuff onto the board, and my flow never slows down. And so that crossover of kind of being able to deliver information but being able to operate a computer really convincingly is actually quite a rare skill set. And I think over time, I think online tutors will need to command a premium for that, because there is a tech pickup to it, and there is a skill pickup to it that I think needs to be rewarded. The difficulty is convincing people and parents and students that online tutoring can be better. Having said that, once you convince them that they should give it a try, none of them ever want to go back. It's a harder sell than offline. Everyone says, I want a tutor to come to my home. Sure, that's feels like it's convenient for you, but it's not necessarily. There's a lot of social pressure involved in that, and there's a lot of inconvenience on both sides involved in that. Particularly students, we find, particularly university students, they actually want to have a classroom, in their room. They might not want to, put on their best clothes and their makeup to prepare themselves to host someone in their home, or even clean up their house. It sounds silly, but these things all kind of play into the convenience of online tutoring, and why I think it is the delivery mode of the future. There's a few barriers to crossing getting there. There's a bit of a training issue. There's a bit of a stigma issue. But with time, it's our job to prove to people that those are misfounded and convince the world that the only thing you ever need is an online tutor.
I completely agree.
That's why we get on so well.
Okay.